Hi guys, it's starting to look like Kemi Badenoch's role as leader of the Conservative Party is simply to keep the seat warm until somebody else comes along. The Tory has also decided against any measures, it seems, to actually rebuild trust with the public, as there have been no real signs of an understanding as to why the party was kicked out of power at the recent election and anything close to an apology. She will often hint at the Conservatives, and I quote, getting it wrong, but would never specify what and why. Here she was on a podcast where the Tory leader explained why she doesn't want to spell out any policies, but while this may seem prudent considering how far a general election is away, it begs the question, what is the point of Kemi Badenoch?
There does come a point where on a range of different things, economic growth, the welfare bill, taxes that you would cut, Thames Water, what's going on with British Steel, it's quite hard to work out what you would do. And your position, which is, I can't say what I would do necessarily because it's a hypothetical and I want to be honest, might have some plaudits, but I suggest to you humbly that perhaps there are other people who want a bit more.
We are 6 weeks into a 4-year general election, maybe 5 even, depending on exactly how it works. Whatever I say now is likely not to apply then. So what I'm going to do is earn the trust of the British people by explaining to them how we think, and we are going to bring the policy out as it's thought through. So I'm not saying we're not going to say anything, vote for us. These things will come.
When will
what
they
I'm
come?
not doing, you will start to see them soon. But Yes, I'm not.
So
I'm
we
not
say
being,
springtime. We're going to get sent to what taxes the Tory party might
watch
cut.
this space is what I'm saying. You will see there will be a narrative, there will be policies, but what I'm not going to do is rush out in 6 weeks. Nigel Farage has actually had a lot more time than me specifically. If you're talking about individuals, I'm rebuilding something that is really big. I'm not just selling something that's gimmicky, and that's going to mean that people will need to be patient.
Okay, patient. What people? Is she talking about the party or is she talking about the public? Now, she mentioned here about rebuilding trust, and she also mentioned about how, we're only 6 weeks in, as leader, and it's too early to roll out any policies. So for the latter, yes, it is too early, because anything she talks about now as a policy will be probably obsolete by the time the next general election comes around. Now, I don't think she'll be leader, so she can say whatever the hell she wants. But anyway, so she's correct. Yes, anything she talks about now as a policy would probably be obsolete in a few years' time. But this thing about building trust, what trust? Trust has been completely destroyed. Now, I said before, what the Conservatives should be doing is finding somebody fresh as the leader, somebody who can present an alternative view, somebody who can say, look, I'm not part of the last 14 years of Conservative rule. I'm not saying that would actually help them win the election. It's a possibility, but it's better than having somebody like Kemi Badenoch, because Badenoch is associated with the last 14 years. She was business secretary until recently. What can she offer to rebuild trust? Like, she's not even admitting that the party made massive mistakes. She hasn't apologized. Like, in a way to rebuild trust, you have to say, look, this is what we got wrong, and be honest about that. Not, this is what we got wrong, and then try to sugarcoat it. No, you have to be brutally honest and say, we got these things wrong, and we're sorry for that. You have to take that first step if you want to rebuild trust. But instead what they're doing is they're blaming everyone else. We got things wrong, but it wasn't our fault. We weren't able to achieve X, Y, and Z. And then they blame the media, or they blame the EU, or they blame immigrants, or they blame other political parties, or they blame the blob, the civil service. So in order to rebuild trust, you have to be honest with the public. But maybe honesty is kryptonite to the Conservative Party. They have built an entire movement on dishonesty, so it's very difficult for them to be honest at this stage. But if you want to rebuild trust, you need to start with something. Now, I said before, and I'll keep saying it, they need to change the leader. What is the point of Kemi Badenoch? What is she doing? She doesn't have a vision. She talks here about, we're going to have something in the future. Okay, but what is that? It has to be a vision. But there's no vision at the moment. What could the vision be? I have no idea. I don't think she has any idea either. Because what do the public see in the Conservative Party? They see elitism, they see dishonesty, they see economic ruin. All of these things are a massive problem. How are you going to undo that? I don't think Kemi Badenoch is the right person to undo that. I don't know if there's anyone in the Conservative Party who can undo those negative traits that the Conservatives have. But they need to undo that if they want to rebuild trust with the public. Now, they can wait and just hope that Labour crash and burn because they're not able to do what they promised to do. That's a possibility. But there's a risk with that approach because there's another party in town, and that's Reform UK. So while the Conservatives could sort of rely on this in the past, where they just wait for the government to crash and burn and then they take over, there's a new dynamic. And we're seeing more and more people flip from the Conservatives to Reform UK. And I don't think Kemi Badenoch fully understands that. Or maybe she does, and she hasn't a solution to this problem. So if I were her, I would be trying to come up with some sort of vision. I would start off by apologizing and admitting that we were wrong, that we made these mistakes, and be specific about them. And stop blaming everyone else. Say, this is our fault. We were responsible for these problems. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't see her lasting very long because she's not bringing anything to the table. She's a disaster at PMQs. She's not really good with any of these policies. She has nothing really to offer the public apart from it's not our fault. And I think she's going to last maybe another few months, and then the Conservatives will decide, okay, we need somebody else. But if it's somebody from the last 14 years, somebody who's been in government recently, I think the Conservatives are still going to struggle with this trust issue. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.